Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope everyone out there is having a fantastic day and ready for some Computer America, where today on the program we have, as is tradition, on the first Wednesday of the month, we, of course, have Mike Cermak, owner-operator of TechGuy.org, and, of course, all-around a lovely gentleman as we talk tech and, and as they come up, computer issues and the like. And, by the way, we are still doing our email. If you have any questions for Mike or myself, live at computeramerica.com. I know we don't mention it often, but we should probably start to mention it more. I know email had a demise, and everyone said it was going to be dead in 2 years, and then it got even more important. So I don't know where email stands on this, but if that's your preferred method of communication, we got you covered. Again, live at computeramerica.com. Also, while you're at our website, which is, of course, computeramerica.com, you can find the show notes, which will have links and videos and anything we talk about here today on the program, as well as the social media contest brought to you by Logitech and the live video feed, which you can also find over at twitch.tv/computeramerica, along with the chat room. So, okay, all that, and latest reviews, yes, of course, thank you for reminding me. So, all that and more, Computer America. Now, you may hear him thumping around in the background, so why don't we go ahead and bring him on, and that is the one, the only, Mike Cermak. Mike, thank you for joining us again.
I must have been making more noise than I realized.
I'm sorry. My God, it was like a bull in a china shop. It was crazy.
I've been called worse.
No. It sounded like you were tapping a pencil or something. But hey, you're here, and we are very thankful for that. So, first off, how you doing? You doing okay?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
It's hey, surviving. One of our family members had a pretty major surgery, so been a little chaotic over the past week. But hanging in there. So,
well, keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, everything came out okay. It's just the recovery period, so it is what it is. But everything's good, and yeah. So obviously, before we get started, let's start with a bit about yourself. For anyone out there maybe doesn't know of Mike Cermak, what brings you on Computer America? Why do you like to talk tech so much?
Yeah, right. Well, I've always been a geek since very young, but back in 1996, I started one of the first tech support sites on the internet called Tech Support Guy, and that's at techguy.org. It's a forum where people go in and ask questions about computers, and other people try to help them out. It's all free, run by volunteers, and paid for by advertisers. And I was on the show, I don't know, how long have I been coming on the show? You have any idea?
Yeah, 2004.
2004, so that's a long darn time, like 14 years now, and for some reason I keep coming back.
Yeah, that was for a lot of our guests, I just go on their website, do the completely ethical and responsible thing, and steal a clip of their kind of self summary. And I was trying to go on yours, couldn't really find it, but I went to your history, and you started techguy.org, I believe, when you were 14 in 1996. or at
That's
least the
right.
first iteration. And it was just a series of, kind of useful computer tips. And it, of course, people asked you and you decided to make a forum. And now techguy.org is what it is today. And yeah, your first appearance was, I want to say August or April. It started with an A, August or April of 2004. So
I believe it. Absolutely. Well, that was before you were born, right?
yeah, quite. Honestly, it was before I first even came on the show. So you've been here longer than I have.
Oh man, I feel old.
Yeah, but hey, it's a good thing, and you've certainly kept up with tech, and of course, technology keeps moving forward, which keeps us young. We don't have to say, oh, I've been working with this technology for 25 years. It's like, hey, it changes pretty rapidly. So
It
that
does. You have to keep learning. That's for sure.
you definitely do, and that is what we try to highlight here on our shows with you. So we have a couple of articles, again, links in the show notes over at our website, and I'm going to, of course, because I'm a humble host. Where would you like to start?
Good question. Where shall we start? Where shall we start? Well,
There's a lot of Google news. If you just want to, we can kind of sweep through Google if you wouldn't mind.
let's do it. Let's hit Google. So going on right now, kind of the big talk is. Oh, hang on. There we go. Sorry, I had
No
a
problem.
tab that started playing on its own. I love that feature. At Google, as we're speaking right now, there's a big gathering in Washington, D.C. of the social media giants, Facebook, Twitter, and the like are down there testifying about what they're doing to try to prevent, the fake news and the push from outside countries to be able to influence our elections and the like. And Google interestingly didn't show up, which was a little bit of a surprise. Some people kind of saw that coming for various reasons. They were invited, and Google offered to send some people there to be able to speak, but apparently Congress wanted only a top level CEO there.
Hmm.
They were not okay with the idea of just some management folk coming. They wanted, Larry Page or one of the top, dogs to show up, and they didn't.
Admittedly, Congress has a lot of sway. You don't want to stiff them too many times because they will, they'll send something for you. But I will say that Google not showing up out of all of them, Facebook has been very, I guess, has been catching a lot of flack for what happened with the 2016 elections and the manipulation and the advertisements. Google just recently, and this is, kind of straddling that line between politics and technology, which is unfortunately getting bigger and bigger every year. Google themselves have, kind of come under fire from the president for altering its search results. And, this might be a good time to keep it on the techie side, to kind of explain to people how search results are kind of generated, because there's a lot that goes into them. I've done some search engine optimization myself. It's not just a blatant Google gets to pick, whatever they want, because it's a lot more complicated, to serve up the entirety of the internet, or at least, whatever they are allowed to crawl. It takes a lot of effort that, a person just simply can't designate. So why don't you, Mike, before we get any further into this, Google's recent, quote unquote scandal is that they were manipulating the search results for the president of the United States to return bad or negative newsfeed. And, Google says that's not true. And so kind of lay out why Google as a search engine probably wouldn't do that, or might.
Well, yeah, well, who can say for sure whether or not they would or wouldn't do it? They technically could do something like that, but it wouldn't be easy. But of course, what they're doing already isn't easy. So as you were saying, search engine, there's a lot that goes into how they do their ranking, and they don't tell us everything because they don't want people to take advantage of the system. They don't want just anyone to decide that I'm going to be on the top listing for, if I search for Computer America.
Right.
Obviously, the reason everybody uses Google is because their search algorithm is just as great as it is. If you search for something, more than likely the right item's going to be within the first couple of hits. No one goes past the first page anyway. And so they're very protective of that. And a lot of things go into it. Originally, when Google first started, backlinking was the biggest thing. How many websites link to your website? Because that means your website must be important. And that was the key metric that they used to determine how high up a particular website would be in the rankings. And then, of course, people discovered that and abused that and would sell links from one site to another. And that's much, much, much less important than it ever was before.
Yeah.
And now they even consider things like if the website is HTTPS or not, if the website is mobile friendly or not. Lots and lots of other things go into rankings now than ever before. So it's hard to say exactly, what could have happened, but it seems unlikely to me that they would do something like that would threaten the backbone of what they do, of their search engine. That is their product. Those results are their product.
Yeah, that was kind of my feeling as well, where regardless of any political leanings, they make so much money being the most dominant search engine. You'd think that they'd want to, kind of preserve that reputation above all else. And trust me, Google has been willing to be anti-competitive in any number of fields that don't relate to Google.com, between Gmail and Android operating systems and, things like that. But their search results, as you said, have always been kind of the one thing that they really strive to keep clean and accurate. So, anyways,
right. As they should, that. Anyhow, yeah, I could keep going on that, but yeah.
Well, no, and I was going to tie back to the story where I thought that this, kind of tangentially relates to Google not showing up, because obviously if, the current administration says that they're playing, they're not playing by the rules, and suddenly they have to be called into question in front of a Congress, committee, you'd think that, hey, there's a pretty good chance that it's just going to be not really a hit job, but how technical are the answers going to be in response to, hey, you guys are the bad guys, like right now?
Right. Well, and that's kind of the thing, right? That's what we saw even when Facebook was being trotted out in front of Congress when this kind of really blew up, and and they're trying to answer some of the questions that were not real technical, and the congressmen just don't understand it. And you can't blame them. They're not tech people, right? They can't understand every small part of everything that goes on in the world. But some of the questions were kind of funny to listen to, and you could tell many times they were really trying to simplify it for them, and sometimes they just weren't getting it. So
Yeah.
it's I don't know. And the thing about it is Google said, okay, we'll send someone, but the Congress said, no, it's got to be not someone, it's got to be a top executive. And Google said, well, the hell with you then.
Yeah, and that's like the weirdest thing, because like they could probably, and I say probably 99% of the time, find someone who is really in the know in, as far as their technology goes. Like the CEO, I really doubt that, Larry Page is really going to know, how they are combating this at a very technical level. And like you said, even if they did receive a technical response, they wouldn't understand it. But whoever Google sent, I bet they would have been proficient enough in in their efforts to really lay it out in decent terms and explain how they're gonna produce this interfering that they're talking about. Google could have sent someone, but I guess their need to have the biggest ratings, the best face, the biggest name, I guess kind of hindered that whole thing, which, as an American, of course, citizen, you'd think that, hey, as long as they got their answers, they'd be happy. But no, it seems like they want that big name.
I think that's exactly what it is, and I think that's why Google doesn't want to play ball with them. They don't want them to make this a big parade. If they want to really get work done, then they want to get work done, but they don't want it just to have names.
Yeah.
And they said that they offered their senior vice president of global affairs, which sounds awfully important, Kent Walker, to attend, and he's appeared previously before the panel. And they said over the last 18 months, we've met with dozens of committee members and briefed major congressional committees numerous times. And that they had offered to make Walker available, and they thought that he would be an appropriate witness for this hearing.
It's happened before. Even on the show, I recall a certain store, not going to name them by name, but all their employees wear blue polo shirts. We were in touch with them, and I guess some wires got crossed into where our audience is actually located. And of course, being a national show, they sent on like the store manager for Poughkeepsie, and that's great. He was a lovely guy, and he was able to really explain products. But he's like, yeah, come on down to the store, and we're like, that's going to be a little hard for the majority of our audience. So, like, it seems like we've had it where they've sent unqualified people to speak to the wrong audience.
Sure.
This guy that they were going to send didn't seem unqualified. That was
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think they were calling for, and I don't see why it would have to be the number one top executive when you have people who are perhaps even better qualified than that person to answer these questions. The top dog doesn't necessarily know the answer to all of these questions anyway.
And I of course wonder what they're really doing. I'm sure that they're going to lay out, behind the scenes, or at least hopefully to the rest of us, what they are doing to reduce the amount of. Because you can pay to put advertisements at the top of search results, and maybe those will go to fake news sites and blah blah blah. How are they going to curtail that? I'd be interested to hear that, but I'm also very, very concerned. I don't know about you, Mike. I'm very concerned about Google Plus. What about the fake news on Google Plus and all the people using that?
That probably swayed the election right there.
Yeah, right there. That strong 0.1%. But I joke. But like I said, I did want to get kind of Google. I have another story on top of the other one that you found, but let's go ahead and skip on over to at breakneck speed, Chrome. And I don't feel like a special flower for using Chrome. I think it's the most popular web browser on the market currently, and has been for a number of years, ever since Mozilla. Like, I can actually trace the time that I switched from Mozilla to Chrome, and really that was almost the incident that made Chrome the front runner. And I'm not saying that my number was the one that pushed it over the edge, but big coincidence. It was when Mozilla had the big security flaws, and they took like 2 or 3 months to switch over. It's all we heard about, and a lot of people tried out Chrome. Chrome was really good. People still use it today. There was no real issues with it, but you have this article here. Chrome is looking to Chrome is going to debut a new look, and if you're watching the video portion, we're going to throw up the image here. Man, little Mac-ish, if I'm being honest.
It is, right? It's much rounder, it's much friendlier, it's much you're right. It's a little bit different feel than what we're used to with Chrome. I don't know. I'm not too surprised. I think this is the direction they've slowly been going for a while. There's nothing too shocking about it, and a lot of it we knew was going to be coming. One of the biggest things as a web developer that a lot of people have been talking about for some time is the whole HTTPS thing. Mm-hmm. So if you have a website and it's, HTTP, that's the way traditional websites always have been. You could always go to www.whatever.com and traditionally would automatically go to the HTTP. Google Chrome is now going to assume HTTPS and warn you if it's HTTP as opposed to the opposite. So on old versions of Google Chrome, if you were at a secure website, it would show secure at the top. And if you're not at a secure website, it just won't show anything. It'll just show HTTP. And now they're changing that. And if you're on a secure site, they'll show you a lock up there. And if you're on a not secure site, it'll have a red little alert next to your address bar saying, not secure. Mm-hmm. And eventually they want to keep going down that road so that it's just going to be presumed that all websites are secure, and it'll warn you if they're not, as opposed to the opposite that we've kind of been doing ever since the internet started, where we presumed sites were insecure unless there was an alert that they were.
Right.
And that's kind of an interesting aspect of it from a technical background.
It's something that Google has certainly been pushing. It's just the idea that Google is big enough, and you're right. I mean, just through their search results alone, they can change the way that the internet works. And HTTPS, I think in a lot of other areas, I mean, you could think about cars or anything else where you have a standard and it's long running, and it's like, oh, this is going to take 25 years to implement. Suddenly, Google says, well, we're going to hurt your search rankings. And then everyone did it within 2 weeks. It was a very
you
quick
have
switch.
to play, right? Whenever Google sends out a webmaster recommendation to write code a certain way, or to set up your server a certain way, or whatever, you had better listen to them, especially if eventually it's going to go into the search results.
Yeah,
They have a lot of power.
So, and again, we're looking at this. And when I say Macish, the really immediate Mac thing here is are the three circles at the top. That's kind of a Mac thing where if you're used to Windows, over on the right you have the minimize, you have the shrink down, whatever you call it, and the and just the close out icons. They're doing away with that in this version. And again, this is according to this screenshot that we're looking at here. Instead, they use the red, green, and yellow circles that Mac users are used to. Honestly, looks pretty good. Looks very clean. Like you said, they have a thing against shadows and depth now. Everything has to be a flat color, and everything has to be very soft and pastel. But overall, I don't think it'll freak anyone out.
Well, and it's very much going toward shoot, it just left my mind. What's their design technique called?
I have no idea.
It'll come to me. In any event, it's following those same standards that they've done for the Android operating system for a long time. It's not. The idea behind it is having different levels, that the text in front of you or whatever content in front of you are made up of different boxes and logical levels, and so they have subtle shadows to separate them and can have overlap for certain controls, and it follows through a lot of their design recommendations for Android, and I will find what that's called because it's escaping me right now. As if anyone cares, but I care. I can't remember.
Well, no, it's and of course everything is right where you left it. Tabs are still at the top. Search bar is still right there. Some icons around the top and the bottom may kind of move around. I mean,
material design. Sorry, it just wasn't coming to me.
Material design, and you're right. I just found it right when you said that, material design guidelines, and you can check that out there as well. So, I mean, looks very good. Maybe I'm using like a custom skin on my Chrome. Has this been pushed out, or is this coming?
I think it is just getting pushed out, perhaps today. I think over the next couple of days, people are going to start getting it. It's version 69, and actually the computer I'm on right now hasn't got it yet, but as soon as I went to About Chrome, I'm now downloading a new version. So something tells me,
it could be that. And
I think it's slowly getting rolled out to everybody today and tomorrow.
Right. And so for 60% of, and they say that it counts for 60% of the usage for a web browser overall. So, hey, pretty big deal. And again, I think everything looks pretty darn good.
And that's pretty huge. I mean, there's a lot of major web browsers out there. And to think that Google has that big of the market, I mean, that much of the market, considering, Internet Explorer and Edge come, by default on most computers, or Safari on Mac.
There was that joke. I think it's like the most popular search result for the Bing or the Edge browser is Google.com and download Chrome. Like it's just that one browser that you use to get the browser that you actually want. I don't know what really causes the dominance. That let's see, and you also put you actually put the stat counter right there in the chat. But oh man, look at that graph. So
that's ridiculous.
I don't know what led to, and honestly, this is what people have been claiming about Chrome for a while, about monopolies and that kind of thing, is that Google.com didn't get to be the number one search engine by a mile because it was anti-competitive or anything like that. No, like you said, it was just a really good search engine. It did what it was supposed to do very, very well. I think Chrome's the same way. It's not being unfair by any means. It's just it's a web browser that's very actually, I take it back. I won't say very efficient, because Chrome is known for taking up a lot of system resources, but it's very good at being a web browser. So I think it's the same thing.
And it hasn't had, I mean, it has had security flaws in the past, but not to the level that other browsers have. Internet Explorer and Firefox and others have had major security flaws. Chrome has had a couple little things, but not to that degree. And it is, I mean, it is that's when you're doing design, you look at that graph. I mean, you have to deal with Chrome. I was just talking to tech support for this software as a service company for one of my clients just the other day, 2 or 3 days ago, and we were having trouble with their service online. And they said, "Well, what browser are you using?" I said, "Well, we're using Chrome." And they said, "Oh, we don't support Chrome." I was like, wait a minute. I wish I had this graph to show her right then. It's like, what do you mean you don't support Chrome? Like, I could understand not supporting Internet Explorer more than I could understand not exploring, supporting Chrome.
And there was a time not too long ago that if you didn't support, and like that's really that was really a problem, and really might have led to why Chrome was adopted so much, was that a lot of websites a couple of years ago, you had to support Internet Explorer, everything from like 6 to 8 to 10. Internet Explorer had a lot of iterations, and each one had to be customly, kind of optimized for. Otherwise, it looked really, really wonky. And then Chrome came along with just the one version that continuously updated, and everything just works. So, you could choose.
You're absolutely right. Some of the way CSS was written for Internet Explorer, especially 8 and 9, was just terrible. And as a developer, it was you're absolutely right. And then as a developer, you would have to go in there and test your website or whatever product you're working on the web in all these different browsers, including different versions of Internet Explorer. You're absolutely right. It was terrible.
I've even seen it in some cases. They just threw up their hands and said, this website is not available for Internet Explorer 6. Go download Chrome. Here's a link, and they just throw people right on over there. So Edge, good luck. I know you're still trying, and looks like Edge is about even with. Let's see, Opera. So, hey, we like Opera. Opera comes on the show often. We like Opera. But Opera and Internet Explorer and even Firefox seems to be down there as well. Everyone's a distant second from Chrome, and that doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. So, and beyond that, some people in the chat room, or at least Fort in the chat room, has mentioned Brave and DuckDuckGo, which are kind of anonymous, kind of stripping your identity from your search results and your browsing history, which, they definitely work. It's just, I don't think they don't care as much about being identified through their search results as they used to. So.
I think you're right.
That world aside, we have time to get into this last one, and it kind of ties into something you said way, way earlier, and it was about challenging the conventions of the internet. And so we have the story here. Google has tried this before, but this one coming from redskinspost.com, and they said that Google wants to get rid of URLs. So the meat of the article isn't really there. They, of course, mentioned the Chrome redesign, the 10th anniversary, but they also mentioned that they will be meeting later this year to discuss an alternative to URLs. And I wanted your opinion on that because, obviously, Mike, you do a lot with websites and hosting and that kind of thing. URLs have been around for a long time. We're getting to the point where, we've added the, kind of the suffixes, or, instead of .com, we have .games or whatever you want to put it as. We're trying to find ways to switch up URLs as we know them so that more people can get more readily identifiable ones without having, your favorite news site of the day.com, without having giant URLs that are phrases. Doing away with URLs. First of all, could you ever see that happening? And second of all, would that be a good thing?
Yeah, I don't know. It would depend very much on what they found to replace it. I don't know. I don't know that you can get rid of URLs in general, because they're for so many reasons, right? I mean, you need to have some kind of identifier for whatever pages you're looking at, whether it's in the same format as URLs that we look at today or not. One thing that I've heard complaints about with URLs is that they're interpreted that it's kind of like, in America, we tend to have the date weird. We have month, day, year, which is just not in any order whatsoever. Whereas a lot of places will have from general to specific, right? Though, year, month, day, which
sticks. It sticks with the American spirit of using the imperial measurement system, just being confusing for the sake of being confusing. It makes sense.
Right. And URLs are kind of that way as well, because you have the www, which is a subdomain of the Computer America, which is .com is the most general part of it. It's commercial, and then you go to the more specific. It's Computer America. Then you go to the more specific. So you're kind of going right to left. But then after the .com is the slash whatever, which then tends to go left to right from general to specific, slash articles slash march slash. So it's really kind of a confusing format in that sense. And there's many other problems with URLs, right? Because you can register one that looks almost the same as another one, bankoamerica.com instead of bankofamerica.com, and trick people into looking at it, clicking on it, not realizing it isn't the real one. It's just so close to the real one. But I don't know how you solve those problems. There's plenty of problems there, but I haven't heard of a good solution to that.
So, and it looks like they've tried before something called, let's see, and I put origin story. That's not at all what they tried before. Something called an origin chip is what Google had tried 5 years ago. And Google wants to direct me to Chipotle's origin, which I am very interested in. Not right now, though. Google's Chrome experiment with killing URLs, and that was published back in 2014. So I think you're right. I think a lot of how we know where to, how to navigate the internet is through URLs, and something's gonna have to be very foolproof, very idiot-proof, and very obvious to replace it. But Mike, before we continue on, we're going to commercial. Everyone, we'll be right back. More Computer America, more TechGuy.org right after this. Everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on with TechGuy.org, Mike Cermak. And by the way, Mike, over the break there, I did some research onto what an origin chip is. And it's actually pretty interesting. I mean, it's not as revolutionary as I thought it was going to be. It's a pretty obvious kind of change, but they said it would help people really identify, where they are on the internet. So anyone out there watching the video portion, Mike, I believe you are as well, you can kind of see it here. And you can see where an origin chip would be, instead of displaying that string of numbers and letters like you were talking about, where, they use an example of Amazon, amazon.com/mobile apps/b ref sa menu address, whatever. Instead of that long string of gibberish that a lot of people wouldn't be able to decipher, all of that is condensed down into simply Amazon.com. And then if you wanted to see all that stuff, you would be able to click on Amazon.com and it would then reveal everything. The purpose of this is that anyone who claims to be Amazon, if instead you went to Amazon.org.com, which could be a pirated site, it would give you a different token, and you would immediately be able to identify it without that long string of unnecessary gibberish. They're hoping it would really cut down on the fraudulent websites. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I thought that they right. So obviously what they tried before, and that was put that was put to rest 5 years ago. They said that even the article that I was just reading was like, looks like Google's going to implement this, and this is going to be the standard for everyone, and that was in 2014. So
people saw the techguy.org part and didn't think it was the Computer America site. Just emphasize that in some other way. That could help. And
Yep.
and now that I'm looking at my Google Chrome right now, they kind of are doing that. So as I look at my Google Chrome right now, HTTPS is green and the
Right.
domain name is black and the rest of the URL is gray. It's very subtle, and I've never noticed it until this moment.
It is very subtle. I've noticed that before, and obviously, it's meant to show you that the gray is, as you said before, kind of the way that you navigate it to where you are. The fact that you maybe are in reviews instead of articles, and you're here instead of there. I wish that they would, kind of make it a little bit more clear. And I do like the idea of a button where, if you get lost deep inside of Amazon and suddenly you're looking at Furbies or something, you can retreat and you can just click on Amazon.com and like a little button, and it would shoot you back up to the top level of the domain. Something like that. But hey, like you said, it's not revolutionary, but I think it's challenging convention. It's something that we all take for granted, and I feel like a little bit of a tweak can go a long way. Just because things have been that way doesn't mean they need to stay that way. So there's that. I think that's all the Google stuff that we have. I think that's all the Google stuff we have. I think that's all the Chrome stuff we have. We can move on to other stuff. This is exciting. So, okay, and if I was really looking to optimize my clicks, if I was really looking to try to get the most thirsty listeners out of this, I would have led with this story and whatnot. But there's some drama going on, and I've heard some rumors, but Elon Musk, he makes the news, and he makes the news when he tries, and also when he doesn't really try. And I feel like this is one of those times he doesn't try.
Right. I mean, he's become such a polarizing figure, and he always has been to a certain extent. But now even those people who are hardcore Tesla lovers, and I know many of them as I kind of am one, they really are at a point where they're like, okay, maybe someone needs to filter his tweets. Like, we're getting like he needs to go focus on work a little bit and less about the tweeting, and it's getting to a point where it's a little concerning. And so there's been this controversy going on for quite a while with him and this guy who is listed here as a diver in the Thai cave rescue.
Right.
As I understand it, he wasn't a diver, and he was just a local who was helping out.
Yeah.
But regardless, so he was a guy who was there and helping with the cave rescue, whether or not you want to call him a diver or not. That's not really the important part of it. I don't think he would object to being called a diver or not diver. What he does object to, though, apparently is being called a pedophile. Go figure. And so months ago, this guy criticized Elon Musk's attempt to help rescue these kids in the cave. Elon, and his crew designed this submersible thing that could be taken through the cave to put a kid in and drag him out. And they didn't end up using it, but good on them for trying to help.
Yeah.
And this guy comes and says, what a terrible idea it was, and it was just a PR stunt, and it wouldn't have made it 50 meters into the cave, and that Musk could, quote, stick his submarine where it hurts. And apparently that rubbed Musk the wrong way, and he made some statement about this pedo guy, and apologized and deleted it. But then since then, here in the last week, he's mentioned again that the guy is a child rapist during an interview, and that he moved to Southeast Asia to take a child bride, and that if it weren't true, then the guy would have sued him by now. And so now the guy says he's going to sue him.
And all of this, the only thing that we know about the guy was that he was, I think, ex-military for Britain or something like that, or he was, or just simply a diver. I mean, we only know like a very general background. Everything that Musk has been saying has been very accusatory and very out in the ether. Like there's no proof whatsoever. It's something that Musk goes on Twitter rants about, and that is simply as far as these claims kind of go. But obviously, one of them is someone who tried to help a bunch of kids out of a cave, and the other one is the CEO of a space-faring company / electric car company / multi-billion-dollar venture. And so guess which one is obviously going to be under much more scrutiny. And by the way, the accusations themselves are very disgusting. So yeah, rightfully so.
Yeah, and at this point, it seems like, why would Elon even still be worrying about it or talking about it? Or wouldn't you just let it be by now? Wouldn't you doesn't he have more important things to worry about?
I think that's part of the problem, and I've again, some of the rumors that hey, if we're talking rumors, one of the rumors I heard was that he in past tweets, because I guess news is generated by tweets now. In past tweets, he has mentioned that he is taking sleep medication to help with obviously restlessness, and he has been known to drink, alcoholic beverages. So when those two mix, you get yourself what a lot of people would describe as kind of a Roseanne kind of effect. And some people are kind of assuming that's at play, where he's overstressed. I mean, it's well documented. Elon Musk does work for, at times, I think like 14 hours a day, nonstop. Like he's a very... He's a very hands-on kind of guy, and of course, with a lot of stress,
he's even sleeping in the factory many times.
Yeah, and of course, with a lot of stress, there's been a lot of bad publicity. Not just the ones that he's created, but for Tesla and other companies. I mean, there's a lot of stress going into this person, and right. I would hate to think that this is how he releases it in a very negative, toxic way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it is a sad thing to see, and it's just taking away from all of the good that I think he is genuinely trying to do.
Right. So the only thing we'll kind of leave people with, I think, is that he is going to be. So I'm sure everyone out there, it's the most popular podcast by a mile, and it's the Joe Rogan Experience. Joe Rogan, of course, and I believe that Elon Musk has said that he's going to be on his show tomorrow, like tomorrow afternoon, something like that. So if there's ever a forum to kind of get things off your chest, I think that's a good enough place to kind of keep an eye out for. So I hope Elon Musk is okay. I hope that he stops with the tweets. I believe that his company, like the board of directors, have met about this. Despite what despite what Tesla has become and SpaceX and Solar City, despite what they've become, I think that I think that Elon Musk, his face, his personality, his persona is very, very tied with what all these companies are. So I hope he can rein it in, because he can really do a lot of damage to himself.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm surprised. He's a really smart guy. I'm surprised he doesn't see this and realize it, and realize how much his time would be better spent somewhere else. It almost feels like the sort of thing where he just can't let go because he wants to be proven right. He thinks he's right about something or doesn't want to admit that he's wrong about something else. I don't know. I don't know what it is, why he's so obsessed with it. It really seems weird.
The whole situation, like, that started again with that gentleman. It really could have been resolved by him saying, "Hey, they tried. They're engineering guys trying to work in a very actual, real world scenario. Not the time, not the place, but thanks for the effort." And then Musk could have said, "Hey, we did our best. Good luck. Any other support that we can give you, we'll give you." Like, if two gentlemen were on either side of this argument, we wouldn't be talking about this at all. But
Right. Well,
that's not the
and
case.
even if this guy went out and said the mean things that he said about Musk, why do you even have to respond to that? People say have said a lot of nasty things about me,
Yeah,
and generally speaking, I
I've
found it
said
easy
them.
just not to respond, right? And then all I have to do is mute you, and I don't have to hear it. I just don't even have to respond. It's just
There you go. But you're right. You don't have to respond. And that, hey, I mean, Google pulled it with Congress, so it must work to some level. So okay, there's that one. Let's see some of these other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of skip over the Olympic Committee one. We already, unless you had a hot take on that, we talked about that yesterday on Gamer Tuesday, and all about the validity of esports versus real sports. And
I'll just say I really still enjoy watching StarCraft 2.
You and
My
millions
wife
of
thinks
others.
it's so strange, but I will very often in the evenings just sit there and watch people play. And she says, "You're not even playing a game; you're just watching other people play a game." And she doesn't get it, and it is enjoyable though.
And I'm the same way. I know that millions of people around this country like to sit down after a long day and watch a football game, and I look at
Right.
it and go,
Meh.
why? It's but you're right. And then I'll sit down and watch someone play a video game that I'm already playing for 6 hours. It's like, what are you gonna do? So okay, there's that one. Let's go ahead and talk about, in the spirit of cooperation that the Olympics represent, let's discuss the International Space Station. And what the Russians have claimed is an air leak. You would think that a giant floating tin can in space orbiting our planet, being bombarded with ultraviolet rays and space debris and otherwise a very hostile environment. Millions of things can go wrong. And it appears that Russia thinks that sabotage, it's an inside job, is what's wrong here. What is the story? Why did it catch your eye? What's going on?
Well, I mean, space is always exciting, right? And you can imagine being up there and being in the International Space Station and circling the Earth and, orbiting, and how exciting that would be, until you discover a minor detail that, there's a hole in the space station and your air is leaking out. That's a minor issue you'd want to be aware of.
You can't just get more. It's a commodity.
Yeah, no, that's a major issue. And so they discovered this 2 millimeter hole in the upper section of the Soyuz. I'm not Russian. I can't pronounce the Soyuz capsule.
Good enough.
And they discovered it, and of course there's lots of reasons why that hole could be there, right? As you mentioned, it's not all wonderful floating around in space. There's lots of little micro debris and micro meteorites and stuff that slam into this thing all the time. And initially it was thought, well, that's it was just damaged. But upon further inspection of it, they're beginning to think that someone may have drilled it. That it appears as though it's a drilled hole rather than an impact from outside. And it's hard to say then, was it, just done by accident during construction and no one noticed it until now? Was someone actively, doing that on board? Was it, when was this done and how and by whom and for what reason? I always like to assume the best in people. I always like to assume things are a mistake rather than intentional. And that may be the case here, but if you were up on that capsule right now, looking around at the other people on board, you'd be like, you'd have to wonder a little bit, right? You'd have to think,
hey, Dimitri, how you doing? Oh, hey, it's going well. Did you try to kill us all? And it's like, oh, what? Me? No.
I'm just going upstairs for a little bite. I'll be right back. I'll come with you. Hang on, Ben. I'll come with you.
Yeah, and you're right. Looks like they're saying it was patched up, but the patch was pretty bad, and looks like the hole was from a drill. I'm hoping it was an accident, and no one would like to admit that they damaged the thing that keeps everyone alive, and no one would like to admit that they damaged a $1 trillion piece of human achievement. So a quick patch is much better than Houston, we have a problem. And they're saying that they won't rule out sabotage. I don't think it's sabotage by any means because, like I said, they don't have a lot of visitors. They don't have a lot of drive-bys there.
Well, and I
Everyone
don't
there
know
is there
much.
for a very specific reason for 6, 8, 2 months, however long it is. It's a pretty good place to kind of stick to your job and not poke holes in space crafts.
Well, but on the other hand, I'm sure that
So
psychologically, there's a
yeah,
lot of people who wouldn't be able to handle it and could just go crazy up there. I think that's conceivable. But, you'd think that there would be better ways if you were going to do something truly suicidal. I don't know much about the space station, but I would think a 2 millimeter hole wouldn't be the first thing I would go for.
you're right. If someone was really looking to cause damage, they could certainly do it better than this. Not trying to call anyone out and say, "Hey, give it another shot." Just saying, "Hey, there are better things that they could be doing." You're right. All right, so there's that one.
I just thought that was terrifying.
It really is because you really have to trust that everyone going up there has everyone else's best interest at heart because in some cases we've seen the images from when they do spacewalks and the like. You're really putting yourself in other people's hands and
Right.
yeah.
Wouldn't you be really eager to go out and do another spacewalk? Be like, you are going to let me back in, right?
Let's hope that they aren't just like a 2 millimeter hole specialist and suddenly you find a 2 millimeter hole in your air cord or something like that. And it's just, suddenly you start seeing 2 millimeter holes everywhere you go and it's just horrible.
I think it's much more likely that it was some mistake, that someone did it by accident, perhaps even didn't know it, but maybe they did know it and didn't want to own up to it.
You said it was in the Soyuz capsule, so
Right.
Let's see, and that was an attached Soyuz capsule. So, this may have even happened before it even left, the quote unquote station. This may have happened
Right.
on the ground.
Right. And whether or not it was done intentionally on the ground is a whole nother question. Yeah,
That's true too.
I think someone could have done it and realized, oh, I'm going to lose my job now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to go for lunch now and hope someone else notices it.
That's what I'm thinking is that someone did it by accident and they didn't want to be caught with it. So,
Or didn't even realize it somehow. Maybe they were drilling some other piece of equipment close to that and didn't even realize they'd punctured it. Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
It's all speculation at this point.
right, which is always fun, but
It is, right?
It is, but we can go ahead and move on, and we have and I actually have another story here, and this is I'm actually kind of want your feelings on this because you obviously you just had another kid again, congratulations, and you are now raising kids in the day and age of social media where everyone has social media. It's very rampant, and a lot of people would say adverse to people's mental health. There are a lot of cases where people take value from social media, and when they don't get validated through any kind of reach or audience or perceived kudos, they take it very personally, and it's a very unhealthy way to look at it. I found this article. This is from Motherboard. I'll go ahead and shoot you a link right about now, where it looks like I'm not alone in feeling this, and I'm not alone in reading the articles and things like this, that 44% of Americans 18 to 27 have deleted the Facebook app this year. So that's in a single year. That should be a very strong demographic for Facebook because obviously that's the people who first started using Facebook are the now 18 to 27-year-olds. They are quickly migrating away from Facebook. And I'm sure the article, if I really bothered to, kind of read it a little bit further, I'm sure that they would say that they're going to Instagram or Snapchat or other platforms. But Facebook, because it's the biggest, it's the largest, it's in a lot of ways the most important. Mike, what are your feelings about social media? A couple years into it, because I don't think it's really that good of a thing anymore. Like it used to be the way to connect to everyone, and it was great. But more and more, it just seems like a very self-serving kind of medium.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to everything, right? I think there's still a lot of value to it. And the fact of the matter is you can set your privacy constraints so tightly and just have a small circle of friends who you share things with if that's all you want to do. And I think it's still a really powerful tool just for that. Just if you want a couple of friends and family to be able to communicate, you can use it for that. So I don't know. I don't get all up in arms and concerned about social media the way a lot of people do. Everything I post, almost everything I post publicly, whether you're my friend or not, you can see it. So I don't care about privacy the same way a lot of people do, I guess.
Very, very true. And the reason I kind of brought up the fact that you have kids is that I've noticed a lot of people will put up or essentially make Facebook accounts for their 1-year-old, for their 3-year-old, and post pictures.
Yeah, I don't remember my eldest son when I made his Facebook account, but my 2 younger kids, the day they were born, they had Facebook accounts, so that we could tag pictures of them and people could, see them and that sort of thing. Which, don't tell Facebook because that's against their terms of service. But but we do it, and it's very useful because when we want to go back and see the picture of so and so with this person, you can do it. Anyhow, so that is how worried I am about Facebook privacy. All of my kids have accounts that I made for them.
Do you mess with the privacy settings, or do you keep everything open to scrutiny by Facebook?
Yeah, well, good question. So I would say in the last, year, I've probably posted 10 things that I didn't share publicly with anyone who wanted to see it, that I only shared with a group of one kind or another. And I think people overlook the fact that Facebook gives you those controls, that you can choose who gets to see a lot of it. I guess there's some argument about how much of that also influences the ads you see, but that it's a business, they're paying for it. I remember having the same argument when Gmail first came out and they had ads based on the content of your emails. They don't really do that so much now. They have other ways to figure out what ads to show you. But it's the same idea. I don't care if some computer is analyzing what I do to give me better ads.
So the big thing there is that it's an opt-out system instead of an opt-in system, which, there have been a lot of studies that of course show that if you do opt-out, the number of people, through any kind of campaign, any kind of knowledge, anything that you really do, if it's an opt-out campaign, a lot less people are going to opt out of it as opposed to if it was an opt-in, kind of by the same token, a lot less people are going to opt into it. So whatever's the default tends to be the majority of the users out there. Be that through some kind of laziness, be that through some kind of, I didn't know, but Facebook knows this. It's the way that Facebook operates. And I think that's why Facebook has always kind of looked at and said, hey, you are collecting a lot of data, and Facebook can always turn around and go, hey, that's your fault. You can set your permissions to however you want. We could, theoretically, if everyone woke up today and said, I'm going to change everything to as private and as strict as I could, Facebook would die because Facebook would no longer be able to gather information. But that's not going to happen. It's just not the way that people work.
Right. And I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe I'm just not bothered about this as much as I should be. It just... and I've seen the different social medias come and go, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or MySpace or Friendster or whatever you want to go back and look at, or Powwow back in the day for that matter.
GeoCities.
I don't know.
I hear you.
Yeah, man, I had a GeoCities website back in the day, and I don't know. It's just not my thing. It really just isn't.
Okay. All right, no, and hey, that's
people get all upset about it, and if it's something truly private that you don't want shared, then you don't share it.
Trust me, we have other correspondents on the show that do get up in arms. They are very.
They're probably a lot more entertaining than I am.
Well, no, and that's just the thing. It's
on that topic.
Well, it's just having one viewpoint where you can come on and say, just I have better things to worry about. It's not that big a deal. That's a perfectly reasonable response, as opposed to we need to take down the serpentine data monster that is social media. Yeah, both have their value, and I'm glad that you at least have something to add to that. So that's good. The only other story, we have like a minute left, and I just want to touch on this because this is kind of a personal story I've been following, or at least a pet project. Do you know about Theranos?
I don't think so.
Theranos, they're a blood testing organization. They had a little gadget gizmo blood test that it was like the size of like a cell phone kind of deal. And through a single drop of blood, they could say that if you had any number of like 100 diseases, they could test for HIV, AIDS. They could test for a lot of different things through, again, a single drop of blood. Turns out that through DNA testing services and the like, they were actually falsifying all of their reports, telling people that they had diseases that they didn't have, giving people fake DNA tests, and through a series of through a series of lawsuits and convictions, they're finally shutting down. And it's really good to see. Really happy that I was able, that it finally happened, and just want to throw that out there. But the music means that we are done. And Mike, hey, glad that you could join us. And again, it's been a lot of fun. We look forward to next month. If people want to find out more about techguy.org, what should they do?
They should go to techguy.org, and that is the actual domain name. Head over there, go to the forums. You can join for free, post for free. Everything's free, just powered by ads.
All right, perfect. And we, of course, have a link to that in the show notes, as well as our official Computer America tech support forum. And in the meantime, Mike, hey, thanks again for coming on. Have a great day, have a great month, and catch you next time.
Right on. Have a good one.
All right, bye-bye. Everyone else out there, be sure to catch us here, same time, same place, Monday through Friday, as we talk to, let me close something here real quick. And tomorrow on the program, we have a company called AVCV, Where Angels Meet. So we're going to talk all about, looks like VR. Everyone, catch you next time. Bye.